Okay, guys, might as well get started. My name is Marco. I'll be your instructor for the next 2 weeks, and then after those 2 weeks, for your remaining 2 weeks, we'll have another instructor named Robin. Okay? So, a little about me. I graduated from Full Stack April 2018, and now I work at this place called New York Life Ventures. It's kind of like a startup kind of company within New York Life. I'm a front-end software engineer. Before I went to Full Stack, I was doing a lot of construction, and I worked in the warehouse for a while, kind of like between jobs and stuff. So now I'm doing this. So it's pretty cool. So if anyone didn't see this, the Wi-Fi password is always be coding, capital A, capital B, capital C. So, and definitely bring your computers today until this is over. Okay? Definitely need your computer every day. What's up, man? Whatever you want. You're going to be, for all the workshops and stuff, you're going to be doing it in code editor all the time, but you can use your own code editor if you want to. But yeah, it doesn't really matter. Welcome to Bootcamp Prep. It's nice to see you guys. I'm looking forward to spending the rest of 2 weeks with you every day. It's going to be nice. So here's a little overview of the entire course. So today I'm just going to give you a little introduction of what we're going to be doing, and then it's going to follow this order. Tomorrow we'll be going over loops and debugging, then we'll do coercion and truthiness, then scope, then arrays 1, 2, objects, object method, this, that, this, the other thing, that. Okay? So if some of these words don't make any sense to you right now, don't worry, because you're not really expected to know them until the day is finished. Okay? And there will be pre-work before, like at the end of the week. I will open up pre-reading, like the pre-work videos or whatever, if you want to watch them, for the next week. So you can get some like ahead practice if you want to do your own research on the weekend. So if you feel like you're maybe struggling a little bit or a little far behind, you could do a little bit of extra work and studying over the weekend, okay? So this is the format of how a day would go by, right? So you would watch the pre-recorded lecture if you have time. It's not like required, but I definitely recommend it, especially if this is new for you, because I know that there's a lot of you guys come from different backgrounds. Like some of you might be CS majors, some of you might be ex-developers, some of you might be like me before I came to Full Stack, had absolutely no idea what computer programming even was, okay? So if you are the latter, I would definitely watch the pre-recorded lectures, but also I know that most of you guys have jobs, busy lives, whatever. If you can't get to it, don't worry about it, but try and watch them if you can. Then it's definitely required that you attend this lecture, and it's required that you stay after the lecture and work on the workshop with a partner, okay? I'll be assigning partners and stuff throughout the whole thing. And then it's definitely strongly recommended that you watch the workshop review videos and compare your answers with the provided solutions. So at the end of a class, like at 9:40 or whenever, if everyone leaves and I leave earlier, right before I leave, I'll be posting the solutions to that day's workshop. Make sense? So then if I were you, I would look at my solution, look at that, and there's also a video explaining why the solution is the way it is. I would definitely watch all that stuff too. Workshops are a little difficult, okay? And they're made that way on purpose because they're made to make you think, but they're not intended to be think. If you finish them, great job, cool. If you don't stress out about it, okay? It's not the end of the world. It's not a big deal. You're going to have as much time as you want to. Maybe over the weekend, if you have some time, go back over some problems you didn't get to in the workshop during class, and then maybe try and do it again, and maybe watch the review video at the same time, all new. So for workshops, you will be randomly paired with a different partner or a small team. When I say small team, I mean if there's an odd number of people, there's going to be one group of 3. Everyone's going to have a partner, okay? And you're going to be randomly assigned, so you'll probably get to work with a bunch of different people. In LearnDot, where the workshops will be, there is on the bottom right corner, there's going to be a little question mark. Let's say you and your partner are struggling with something, you have some questions. Don't like raise your hand and be like, hey, oh, Marco, hey, you know, click that button, type in where you're sitting, there's desk numbers, and then type in like what problem you're on maybe, and then I will come over and help you, or we have fellows that come in and help the workshop period, who are fellows or people that just graduated from full stack but are working for full stack for like 3 months. Any questions so far? Just basic format stuff of how the course is moving. Okay. I would definitely add a picture to LearnDot, like a picture of your face, you know? So if you ask a question and I could just like kind of see who you are, so I don't go up to somebody and be like, hey, are you this person? No, just add a picture. If you want to, you don't really have to. Whatever you want. I don't want to force you guys to do anything. So these workshops are in pairs, right? Or in a team. And this is called pair programming, right? So pair programming is actually a practice that you will have to go through the entirety of the actual weekend. That is how Full Stack teaches its courses, you know? Pair programming is essentially two programmers sharing the same computer, and you work together on all aspects of software development. So one person will be the driver and the other person is the navigator. The driver is the person that is typing the code. They're on their machine, they're typing their code, right? And the navigator is the person that's telling them what to put where. Okay? You guys can switch off driver and navigator between problems, or maybe some people like to set a timer, like 15 minutes, then switch. You guys will find your own method to do it, okay? Yeah, at Full Stop, you switch partners for each workshop. Like every single there's tons of workshops in the actual bootcamp, and you're going to be switching partners during everything, okay? But essentially, this is how pair programming works, okay? Any questions on pair programming? Cool. So, why use pair programming here? Shouldn't you practice on your own? You should practice on your own, but teach to learn is a central aspect of Full Stack's philosophy, right? And it really does help. Let's say that you kind of think you know what you're doing, but like you can't really explain it. When you get to the point where you can explain it to somebody else that really doesn't know what they're doing, that's just going to enhance your own knowledge, right? Even if, let's say you come from a CS background, you teaching somebody that this is their first time coding ever, that's going to only help you progress and grow, okay? Teach to learn definitely works, okay? Communicating about code is just as, if not more important than actually writing it. This is true. Let's say you guys go through the bootcamp. Let's say you guys get a great job. If you can't communicate, because you're not going to be coding by yourself unless you're like a contractor for a company and you're doing their whole website for them or something like that. You're going to be developing with a team, right? And you have to communicate with your team about the code that you're writing, or they're going to say like, no, what are you doing? This is wrong, blah, blah, blah. Maybe you were right. You know? You have to learn how to communicate what you're thinking, what you're writing, what you're doing. It's very important, especially on a job. Solving problems with a partner is the best way to prepare for an admissions interview at a top bootcamp. So, also, not only just interviews at a top bootcamp, interviews for jobs. Because when you go into interview for jobs, they're going to ask you to solve a problem. And if you're just like kind of not talking and just coding, and just like not communicating anything that you're doing, why would they want you to work at their company if you don't have good teamwork skills, if you don't have good communication skills? You gotta like go back and forth, okay? Most top boot camps and a growing number of employers use pair programming every day. I sometimes pair program at my job as well. Sometimes when you're working in the same file, it doesn't make sense for two people to work differently on different machines, because when you try to put the code together, it just sometimes it's more hassle than it's worth. So sometimes with more complicated things, you pair program with another engineer. Does everybody see the value in this? Value. Now we're gonna do an icebreaker. Who likes icebreakers? Icebreakers are cool, right? Not really. But you guys are going to be working together for the next 4 weeks, okay? So I will need everybody to, maybe we're going to go around, and you're going to say your name. You're going to say where you're from, if you want to. And you're going to say why you're here, and then a weird thing about you. You don't have to say the weird thing about you. That's too much. So I'll go first, okay? My name is Marco. I'm from Long Island. You can't tell, but do I have a Long Island accent? Oh, wow. That was like a quick yes. Yeah. I'm here because I'm your instructor. That's my job. I don't have to write anything about it. Stand up.
So, yeah, weird thing, I don't know. Cartoon voices.
Clap it up. People first time. Next.
Hey guys, it's Evan. I'm from Jersey. Here because
Let's forget a weird thing. It's too weird. It's too much of an on-the-spot question.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Vlad. I'm originally from Moscow, Russia, and I live in Europe for the last 3 years. Yeah, I immigrated here naturally. And I'm here just because I would like to check if I'm good, if this profession is going to be good for me, or if I have talent. I would like to go on and check if I can do it, because this is a profession of the future, and I would like to get involved in it somehow. And the weird thing is actually, like, all my life I was unlucky with computers. For instance, when I came to computer club to like play Counter Strike, everyone sits with my friends. Everyone sits good places, and my computer was always screwed up. See, but I still want to, more to find to learn more about programming, and maybe really becoming a software engineer.
Cool. I went down to school with that. It is cool now. You're right.
Yeah, and so then I thought maybe I should do something practical at some point. Irene, I'm from Brooklyn. I'm here because I want to switch careers. I want to see long term. And something weird, I'm sick right now, so
Kachin. I currently reside in New Jersey. I was a comp sci major for like a year, and then I switched out. But I'm definitely interested in coding, so that's my back.
Hi everyone, I'm Deepak. I'm from Queens as well, born and raised. I come from the nonprofit sector. I actually work for a nonprofit that trains people to code from IT backgrounds, and I saw such success there that I actually wanted to get in on the opportunity.
Hi everyone, I'm from Russia. I'm 100% from Russia. So I'm in Brooklyn now, in studios in this. So I just want to start to know something new and make things. I'm
Hi, I'm Nicholas. I'm from Westchester here because my sister's actually full time in Chicago right now, and she said this other thing. Hopefully at CA, and definitely is quite some so.
I live in Brooklyn, and I'm here because proving that we send enough people at someone's way will actually take a bit.
Hi everyone, I'm Charan. I currently live in Fort Lee, New Jersey. The reason I'm here is all my roommates are programmers, computer science majors, or something of sorts. So I thought it might be a good opportunity to get into that. What's up guys, my name's Johnny. I'm from AJ. Here because
Hi, I'm Dylan. I'm from Westchester also. I'm here because I majored in literature in college, and yeah, just looking to kind of get skills a little more concrete, and yeah, coding just seems like a nice blend of like technical ability with some creativity at the same time. Yeah, I'm 22. That's the weird thing about it, yeah.
That's the weirdest thing I've heard all day.
Hi everyone, I'm Ness. I'm from Jersey, and I'm here for the career change. Something weird about me is that I really thought I lived in Jersey. So.
Hi guys, my name's Trevor. I'm from Long Island.
Hey.
I'm here because my friend graduated from San Francisco.
Hi, I'm Liz. I'm from Jersey, and I'm here because I'm also looking for career change. Hi, my name is Tori. I'm from Manhattan, and I'm here because it's so hot.
Hi, my name's Ming. I'm from the Lower East Side of Manhattan. I'm here. Just very curious about coding. All my friends are doing it, so why not? Why not try it myself? And I'm also very curious about why full stack training one in the country, so this is why I'm here.
credits. Oh, so
Damn. That wasn't so bad, right? For the record, I was a geography major, and I wasted a lot of money. Just so you know. Well, sort of. I don't know. It was cool. So, okay, continuing forward. Also, there will be 2 projects during this course. They were 100% optional. You don't have to do them. But you should, because it's good practice. They're a little more difficult, but I definitely think if you have the time, especially, even after the course is done, you'll still have access to all the workshops, right? So even after the course is done, I definitely recommend doing that. And you can always Slack me forever. If you ever need help. So at the end of this course, the last day in class, you guys are going to have a practice assessment, right? That assessment, if you do well, if you do terrible, it doesn't matter. Full Stack is not going to look at it. It's just for you, okay? Then, after the last day of class, the second practice assessment will be open to you. That does not matter if you do poorly. If you pass, you automatically go on to the second round of interview, which will be a video interview where you're also solving problems. Okay? If you fail that one, chill out. It's cool. All right? You can still apply to Full Stack the regular way. I think like through the website. The reason why Bootcamp Prep gives you these opportunities to do these risk-free assessments is because the interface that you'll be working in throughout this course, CodePen, is different than what the assessment will be in. That's going to be in something called HackerRank, so it'll give you like a little bit of leeway to like get used to the site. Okay. Any questions on that? Nothing? You open? No. So Full Stack has some community values. Be patient with yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself. Seriously, I see this all the time. People are too hard on themselves, okay? And be patient with other people. You have to realize that maybe if you get something right away, the other person you're working with won't get it right away, okay? I see it happen all the time, okay? So if you're the one to get it quickly, help them work through it, okay? Just be patient. Everyone has their own, and this is, if this is like your first time with coding and everything, this is completely different than anything you've done before, okay? It's really weird logic. The logic exists, it's there, but it's kind of weird to grasp if you've never fiddled around with it before, okay? So don't be hard on yourself, and don't be, like, annoyed at other people for not being as good as you know? Ask every question you can. When I was learning this stuff, I asked the dumbest, I think about that all the time. Like, I think about some questions I asked when I was, like, in the boot camp. Ask the dumbest questions. It didn't make any sense. It's okay. Do that, because someone's always going to answer you. Okay? I'll always answer your questions, no matter how dumb they are. And I'm not going to make you feel stupid for asking the question. Because when I give you the answer, you'll know that answer, and it'll help you learn a little bit more, okay? So just ask me questions whenever you can. I don't care, okay? Just ask whatever you want. Trust the process, be on time. Trust the process is something that is kind of like the motto when you're going through the boot camp. Because like the whole time, you're kind of like, oh, I don't know anything that's going on. That's kind of like how it works for 4 weeks. But then then one day you just shoot up and like everything that you've done. So just trust the process, okay? And be on time to class, if you can. If you're not, whatever. Help others, teach others, and be mindful of subtle isms, racism, sexism, ageism. Obviously, be professional. We have a no asshole policy here. Don't be, literally, be a regular person. Be a normal person here, okay? You are each other's most valuable resource. You know? Like, you guys can come up to me and ask me all these questions that you want, and I'll give you the right answer. Sometimes. But the real way you learn is struggling through a problem with somebody else that doesn't know what they're doing. You know? If you guys struggle together, you'll get it. Okay? No suitable for work content. When in doubt, leave it out. Whatever. But seriously, just be a regular person. Be respectful. Help everyone. Help each other. Okay? So, why JavaScript? JavaScript is literally the most used language for front end, okay? And now there's this thing called Node.js, which I don't want to get into right now because it might go over most of your heads. But you could also use JavaScript for back-end technologies too. So I forgot when Node came out, but before Node, JavaScript was merely run in the browser, only in like Chrome, you know? But now you can actually put together some servers and databases with Node, okay? So JavaScript is becoming more and more popular. More and more popular, okay? My job is solely JavaScript. Some of you might know of a different bootcamp called App Academy. They teach Ruby. Ruby isn't as widely used. Just like it is used, but like it's not widely used. Oh yeah. The curriculum also teaches HTML and CSS to an extent, and also a little bit of SQL, okay? But mostly JavaScript. Because when you're actually engineers, you're going to be using a lot of different technologies together, okay? Okay. So there's this thing called Atwood's Law. Anything that can be written in JavaScript will eventually be written in JavaScript. And I actually think that's true. It runs almost anywhere on the full stack, web browsers and servers, and the first 7 out of 10s of JavaScript is relatively learner-friendly. It is really easy to pick up, in my opinion. I actually started out learning Ruby, and Ruby's super easy to learn, in my opinion. And JavaScript it was just like the transition was so clear. Like JavaScript isn't really hard to learn. But if you can't learn it right away, don't stress yourselves out. Okay? It's fine. But yeah, it's super powerful. It's a super powerful language. Okay. So ES5, ESNext. So ES5 and ESNext are different versions of JavaScript. So in ES5, like a function can also be written like this in ESNext. Okay. It's backwards compatible, so like anything that was in ES5 is in ESNext, but some things that are ESNext don't work in older environments. Okay. Full stack teaches ESNext. Immersive programs continuously updated to cover the latest JS features, and Bootcamp Prep covers some new features too, but only those that are helpful for beginning developers. Don't expect in-depth or comprehensive coverage of new JavaScript features in this course, okay? Any questions? Okay. So getting the most of this course. So like you can just kind of come here, zone out when I speak, and then leave right after I'm done and don't do the workshop. But you're not going to be getting a lot out of this course, right? So the way to get the most out of this course is to complete the pre-work curriculum first. It is, you don't have to do that, but I would. I would try and find some time to do it, okay? Do the pre-readings and watch the pre-recorded lectures. Oh no, the pre-work was the thing that you did before today, right? That's my bad. Definitely do that if you haven't done it already. And then do these before every lecture, if you can, okay? Enjoy the productive struggle. This is going to be hard. Try enjoying the fact that you're facing a difficult task that can completely alter your life in a really big way, okay? It's going to be hard, not just bootcamp prep. If you move forward, the bootcamp is going to be like a million times harder. But enjoy it, okay? Because you really will be learning at such an aggressive pace, okay? Ask for help when you need it. Don't like just sit at your computer and just kind of like get mad at your computer. Just don't talk to me. Just tap. No, ask me questions. Ask the person next to you questions. Stand up and scream a question. Somebody's going to answer. Okay. Don't look at solutions until you give problems an honest try. Truth. Okay. Like I said, at the end of a lecture, I will be posting the solutions. Look at the solutions for the problems you've done to compare the code you've written, but really, like, okay, look at the solution if you've given a good, like, honest try. But if you haven't, don't just like look at the solution and don't figure out, because you're missing out on a lot of mental stress and like problem-solving experience. Okay, that's important. Go back to unfinished workshop problems and finish them when time permits. Definitely. Some people even like before the practice assessment. Some people ask me, how do I study? I say just do the entire course again. Do every workshop problem again. Don't look at any of the solutions. Okay? It'll help. Watch the solution videos, even for problems you think you got right, and review the solution code. Anybody have any questions on how to get the best out of the scores? Just do all the work that's presented to you. But for all the optional work, like I know, like I'm saying that it's going to help you, but like if you really don't have time, like don't stress about it. Okay? Okay. All right. So now we're going to go into tidy code tips. Tidy code. Tidy code is extremely important, okay? It might seem like a drag and just annoying, but it's really, really important. It's easier and faster to debug and read your code if it is written in the correct format, okay? Engineers spend a lot more time reading and debugging code than actually writing it. This is very, very true, okay? Because it takes you like 15 minutes to like write some stuff, right? But then if you write like 100 lines of code and then there's a problem with the output, right? It's going to be very hard to debug it if your code looks like a mess, okay? And that's what tidy code is about. It helps you know what belongs to what, okay? It demonstrates qualities attractive to boot camps and employers. If you go into an interview and your code looks disgusting and it's not tidy and it's written in the wrong format, they just straight up will not hire you. It's just that simple. They're just not going to hire you. Because it's not professional. Okay? It is important to do this, to follow these steps. And it will be much, much more helpful to you when you're debugging. Okay? Indentation. Indent one level inside every code block, okay? Code blocks start with a open curly brace and end with a closed curly brace. If you see those, that means everything that's written inside of them is inside of that code block, okay? So here we have a function, amazing function. This function is called amazing function. You need the parentheses right after you write the function name, and then you open up a curly brace. And then inside, now that this curly brace is open, everything that's below this line is inside of that block. It's inside of that function's block. So that means everything should be indented 1. Is everyone following? Now you have an if statement. If is a keyword in JavaScript. If space parentheses, and then whatever you want. This says true. And then another open curly brace. That means there's going to be another code block. Inside of the function code block, there will be an if code block, okay? So everything inside of that gets indented once more. Then you write some code. Here we're console logging the string, this function is amazing. Semicolon, okay? Semicolons actually aren't required in JavaScript, but they are like enterprise standard, okay? So usually if you're writing like production level code for a company, they're gonna want semicolons because it is cleaner, okay? So, but you don't put semicolons here. You don't put semicolons here. You put semicolons here because this is its own line. It's the end of that statement. This has to close somewhere, and this has to close somewhere. So here, you guys could see this, right? So here, the curly brace is closing for the if statement, right? Then on the next line, you're outside of the if block. So then the other curly brace for the function goes all the way to where the function started. The ending curly brace goes all the way where the if started, okay? Not where it started here, where you started typing it, okay? Who has questions on this? What's up?
So, if you put the word true into that function, right, this function is amazing.
Yes. Inside of an if statement, in the parentheses, right? You say if space parentheses. Whatever you put inside of the parentheses, if that statement can be coerced into a truthy value, if it's true and not false, then everything inside of the if statement will run. If it's false, if it is coerced into false, then the if statement is completely skipped. So if this was false in here, if the number 0 was in here, if an empty string was in here, if null was in here, if undefined was in here, this would not run. Anything else would. And here you're outside of the function block. So you're no longer inside of the function because you're after the closing curly brace. And here, on line 14, we will write the name of the function, right? Amazing function. We'll write it, and then we'll put 2 parentheses with a semicolon, because that's the end of that statement. By doing that, that's called invoking the function. When you invoke it, you run it, right? So in the console, you'll see this function is amazing. Okay? Variable naming. Use camel case when defining variable names. Camel case is basically like if there's 2 words, the first word will always be lowercase, and the second word, no space, but it will be uppercase. So you can read it, right? Just like this. Camel case, okay? Let my favorite place. When you want to declare a variable, use let. Don't use var. There's something called var, which was in ES5. Next is let. Let is better, okay? So here you have my favorite place. You see how there's 3 words. My is, the M is lowercase. Favorite is a new word, right? In English, favorite is a new word. So the F is capitalized, and then the P is capitalized, right? And it's equal to a string that says full stack. And then after the statement, you put the semicolon. Don't use ambiguous variable names. Let x equal 68. Like, usually, it's kind of it's honestly a lot harder than it sounds like to name variables correctly, okay? Because you could really name them whatever you want, but if you're working with another person and that person is trying to help you, like debug or something, and you have let x, let floor, let whatever, all this like random gibberish, they're not going to know what you're talking about. See, this is well, I don't know if this is your favorite place, but like, this at least somebody will know will be probably a string that's the name of some place, right? Use names that describe the value they contain. Like current temp, current temperature, right? And it's okay to use short variable names as counters, like I in a for loop. We'll talk about loops tomorrow, but this is what a for loop would look like. As you can see, there's a curly brace here, so everything inside here should be indented, right? Now, inside of the parentheses, we'll go over this tomorrow. I don't want you to worry about it too hard right now. But like, you see that I'm saying let I, right? I is like best practice to do in a for loop or for a count, because it stands for iterator. It can also stand for index, okay? So it's okay to use short variables like this in this situation. In the console, you get 1, 2, 3, because you say let I equal to 1, so I is now equal to 1. And you're saying as long as I is less than or it's equal to 3, as long as this statement is true, we're going to do this. And after this runs once, you're going to add 1 to I plus plus. We will go over this, okay? And that's why we got 1, 2, 3 in the constant. Any questions? Any stupid questions? I want to hear them all. Okay. So before we're done, I want to give you an example here. This is a function, right? So here, let me. You guys can see, right? Oh, whoops. Why is I not defined? Oh, shit. Oh. First thing I want to point out, this thing is called REPL.it. REPL.it is good for if you want to test some code, you write it over here, you press run, and it'll run over here. You see the output. So this is a valid function, okay? Like it's doing something, there aren't any errors, like this is valid, right? But it looks disgusting. You can't even tell what's going on here, right? The for loop is on one line. So I will show you how to make this better, okay? So first things first, here's the function, right? It's called says hi. Does everyone agree? Who says I'm wrong? Good, because you would be wrong. So what I like to do is after you write function, you put a space and then you have to put the space and then you put the function name, then you put the parentheses, and after the parentheses, I like putting a space in between the closed parenthesis and the open curly brace. Then everything inside of these curly. Also, if you like put your cursor on this curly brace, you see how this one down here is highlighted. That shows you the opening and the closing. Okay, this is very useful. Most code editors do this. So you can just highlight everything and press tab. It tabs the whole thing over for you. That's how it should look. Now you know that everything here is inside that function. That makes it a little bit more clear, right? Cool. So now the next line, we have a for loop. This line is a scary line, right? You don't really know what's going on here. So, for is another keyword. It lets JavaScript know that you're about to write a for loop. So, inside of it, the first thing you do is you define a variable, a counter, okay? And you're going to set it equal to 0. Put spaces in between the equal sign. In between the, it's not really an equal sign, it's called an assignment operator in JavaScript, okay? But I'm just going to say equal sign because it's easier. And then, after this semicolon, another space, okay? Is everyone following me? This may sound really annoying and really boring and stupid, and you hate it, but it's important, okay? Then, after this I, just like the less than sign, you're going to put spaces in between that as well, and a space after that semicolon. So what this is actually doing is you're saying you're first declaring a variable for the for loop to iterate, right? And you're going to set that equal to 0. Then, after the semicolon, the next statement will be something that says, keep doing this as long as this statement is true. As long as I is 0 now, right? And everyone agrees that 0 is less than 7, right? So this, as long as I is 0, as long as I is less than 7, everything in the for loop will keep happening. Okay? Now, and then, after, so I is 0, I is less than 7, and Then everything inside the code block, inside of the for loop, runs one line at a time. Then when the last line is done running, I++. I++ is shorthand for I plus equals 1. Well, not really, but it's also, which is shorthand for I is equal to I plus 1. So it's really, you're taking what I was and you're reassigning it. You're saying, okay, whatever I was, it's now going to be equal to whatever I was plus 1. Okay? So now we put a space after this, and now we have a curly brace. But wait a second. There's like lines of code that are coming after the curly brace. So that goes on another line. This all looks good, this all looks good, this all looks good. Oh wait, here's a closed curly brace? No. This goes on another line. But it's still not done because it has to end where the for loop ended, right? Now this looks more clean. Up to here. Does anybody have any questions? What's up? White space is no. So not really. Like if you put a space here, it doesn't matter. If you put another space here, that doesn't matter because I'm pretty sure JavaScript just kind of eliminates the white space when it goes through the compiler. However, a space is required here. Like you can't just like not put a space here because JavaScript is going to read this whole thing as one thing. And it's going to say function says hi. What in God's name is that, right? So spaces are important to an extent. Now, so after here, after this for loop, we have another if statement. This return should be tabbed over, and this whole line should be deleted because there's no reason for that. However, what I like to do is kind of space everything out sometimes, okay? If you are writing a function that has 50 lines of code, you're doing a lot of weird logic inside, and sort of like some blocks are more related to the others, I like indenting between them so you can see the separation. Closing. So what I++ actually does, it returns the value of I and then increments it. It'll change the form. Like in this scenario, it's better to do I++. Right? But like in some situations, what you would want to do, is increment it before. But like I would say with I++. Right? Well, like I said, when I said I++ is shorthand for I plus equals 1, it's not really true. I++ actually returns the value before it increments it. Where I plus equals 1 reassigns the value. It's different, okay? But it ultimately does the same thing. Okay? So now what this function is doing when I invoke it, JavaScript is going to run through this whole thing. It's going to see this for loop. It's going to see I is 0. It's going to say I. First it's going to say, is 0 less than 7? It is. Run through the for loop, console.log hi. That's how we get the first I. Then at the end, we'll say this curly brace here, so it's like, okay, this was the last line of code. I++. I is now 1, and we go to the top of the for loop. And this happens all the time until I is 7. Because 7 is less than 7, that's not true. That's not a true statement. 7 is 7. 7 is not less than 7, right? So then, after you log this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, then we can finally finish the for loop and continue with the function. And now here, we have 5 is greater than 3, right? If 5 is greater than 3, is 5 greater than 3? So 5 is greater than 3, right? So everything inside the if statement will run. And that is a return statement. Returning 4. That's why you see in the console a green 4 and not a white 4. Inside the console, everything you console.log, everything you write console.log, open parentheses, put something inside of there, that will appear as white. However, console logging is kind of just like printing. If you guys are familiar, if anyone knows Python, it's kind of like print. You know? You're just like printing something inside of the terminal for a human to read. It doesn't really do anything. You can't do anything with that value. Whereas if you say let results equal to that, and then you console.log results, result is 4. Because this function returns a value, right? You call it, the function is going to run, and then it's returning something to you. It's throwing something back to you. And in this case, it's 4. Okay? So,
When do you need the semicolon?
you don't really need it. That's it. If I remove the semicolon, but you see, semicolons kind of, they sometimes break code. Like if you put the semicolon here, this won't run. Oh, it does run, but that's weird. I didn't think that would happen. That's kind of weird. Ignore what I just said. If you put the semicolon here, everything breaks. You know? It kind of like causes more problems than it's worth, but it's like, I think like here maybe? No, I don't know. I don't even really know where to put semicolons. I would say like at the end of every statement. You know? Like the if block is done, so you put a semicolon because you know that line. Because what JavaScript really does is it's like, it sees the semicolon and it knows there's nothing going to come after that. That's really the purpose of semicolons. It's like, okay, now we're going to a new line. Now this is the end, this is the end. Yeah.
I think you just mentioned this, but I really don't understand the different uses for using returns and also
So console logging, like if, okay.
I mean, what you showed there, you got the same code, so why?
No, this is different. This is different. Yeah, so if I do, so instead of returning, if I do console.log4, this is, this is undefined, okay? But 4 is up here. Console logging high 7 times in the for loop, right? Don't worry about like really what for loops, how it works or whatever. Just know that this is doing it 7 times. Looping through something 7 times, okay? You're console logging high. Then we console log 4. After the highs are done, you see 4. That's all happening when this line of code runs. When you say let result equal to this, you're invoking this function, so the function is running. Then, after this is done, we come further, and now we're console logging result. Result is undefined. That's because JavaScript says if you don't return something at the end of a function, the function implicitly just returns undefined. And undefined is a value. But you usually don't want that value in any case, okay? So console logging doesn't give you back a value. So like I did here, where I said let result equal to says hi invoked, if I do return, if I do return 4, return 4 results. Why is result not 4? If you do return 4, results will be equal to 4. Well, you know, it's an actual value. It's not going to be undefined. I think it's like, REPL's cache or something. But now, if you do 5 is less than 3, you don't get anything. Result is undefined because and you don't get, well, okay. So before, like, if you had the console log here again, if you had the console log here, and it wasn't a 4, it was like a string that says, hey, I'm here, this is never going to run, right? But if this was greater, it would run, right?
So it's just like specific to a function.
No, console log doesn't give you back anything. You know, like it doesn't like it just like puts it in the terminal. So usually when you're writing functions that you want to do something, you want to get like a real value, like a physical, not physical, virtual value back. You know, do something with it throughout your application, right? With console log, you don't get anything.
So if you just did like console log, it's not something complicated, and it was just a simple like,
Like,
black equals 4, and you use console log black to get return 4 though.
hold on. So like if I write this function, right? It's going to be a test, right? And it's going to just console.log testing. Okay? And then I say, I call test down here by invoking it. I like never put semicolons, so like, you're never going to see me do it. So you run this, and it says console log testing, right?
Yeah.
But like, if you say let value equal to test invoked, and then here you console.log value, you get undefined.
Okay, so you can only split back strings then.
What?
You can only split back strings then console log.
No, it could send back numbers. It can send back null. Null is another value. It can send back false. It can send back it can send back a what the hell? Oh, I shouldn't do this. It can send back another function. It can send back any value. Console logging just takes everything inside the parentheses and just prints it in the terminal. And nothing is done with that value. It's just print. It's literally just like this. It's just this. Like, you know, it's nothing else. But like, if I wanted to, let's say I was writing code and I was like, okay, now I'm going to do let real value equal to real value equal to value plus space 1, 2, 3, right? And then here I'm going to console log testing, right? Oh. And then what am I going to say? What do you guys think real value will be? It's going to be undefined 1, 2, 3. Because functions that don't have a return statement don't return anything. They return, well, they do. They return undefined implicitly. JavaScript does that for you. So instead of console logging, if you return a string testing, you get testing 1, 2, 3. That's what real value is equal to. If you do real value triple equals testing 1, 2, 3, you get true. That's what real value is. That's the value it's holding. The main point of this is to write tidy code. Okay? So I'm gonna stop the questions because we're going a little over, and I'm gonna say take like a 5-minute break, and then I'm going to. You guys all have access to Slack, right? If you don't, let me know, and then I will Slack out pairs, and then you guys can go. You guys know how to access LearnDot, right? The workshop, like right now, it's on pre-reading mode. The workshop will be open as soon as I Slack out pairs. So what you're going to do is you're going to stand up, you're going to scream out your partner's name, and then you're going to sit with them, and then you're going to work on the workshop. Okay, so back in 5. Also, after every lecture, I will be slacking you the link to these REPLs, and I will also be uploading the actual lectures on YouTube and putting the links in the Slack as well. If you guys want to listen to me even more.